Welcome to What's a Beautiful Life Anyway? I'm your host, Jill Bennett. This is the channel that shares ideas to help you live your best life, because life can be beautiful if you live consciously. Welcome to this week's edition of What's a Beautiful Life Anyway? I'm your host, Jill Bennett, and I'm absolutely delighted to say this is episode number 20. Can you believe that every week for 20 weeks, I've managed to upload a new podcast edition for you? And today we have a very special guest. We have Natalie Swanson. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, Jill. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Now, we're going to warn you all, we do have a few technical issues this morning. I'm back in Mallorca trying to sort myself out. So I'm not recording in my office, which means that the quality of the audio may not be quite as good as it normally is. And also we've got a few Wi-Fi problems, or I've got a few Wi-Fi problems. So we'll see how it goes, but hopefully you'll all get the gist of what we're talking about and you'll be able to take something from it. Now, Natalie is a cognitive hypnotherapist. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. But I think to start with, Natalie, tell us what you were doing before. What made you move into hypnotherapy?
Well, I used to be in the financial and the banking industry. I'm from Canada originally, and I worked in banks there. I have a degree in finance, a degree in math. I moved in the 90s to Prague in the Czech Republic, just for a complete change of scenery, just for a bit of adventure, and found a job at an investment bank there. Moved to London, worked at an investment bank here. But really, along the way, I never particularly felt fulfilled by that work. And I found that whatever job I was at, I was the unofficial company counselor. Everybody was coming to me for advice and for help. At the same time, I was a bit of I call myself a course junkie. I would take all kinds of disparate courses, lots of them through the Open University. I did paleontology, I did astronomy, I did the North and the South Pole, and I came across one for hypnotherapy, not through the OU, but through Regent's College. And I took that, absolutely fascinated with it, with the change that could make. And so I just quit my job. I changed careers from there, and so I've been doing cognitive hypnotherapy now for the last 17 years.
Wow, that's a huge change, isn't it? From banking to, I mean, it's similar to me. I was audit with the Foreign Office. So I used to audit the British embassies and high commissions all over the world. And and I just moved into health and wellness. And I think a lot of us have our own journey, don't we? We find that something works for us, or we love, in my case, it was loving products, which I'd never, ever thought that I would do anything like that. So fascinating that you've lived in so many different countries as well.
Yes. No, and I probably even would have moved on from the UK, but then I got married and I have a son, and then you sort of think, well, I should probably stick in one place for a little while longer, and here I am. So yeah, and I mean, I love it here. I just this is home for me. I've been here for so long now. I've been here since 2000, so this is home for me.
Amazing. So a wonderful life. And I think there's so many of us who, for whatever reason, we fall into our lives, we get on, we do what we do. And for me, I've always sort of been a half glass full type person. And don't you find, if you are, that you do attract good things into your life? And
100%.
Yeah. So we're happy, we attract good things, that makes us more happy. And it's a vicious circle. But we do see the opposite in people where, they focus so much on what's not going right. And I'm hoping that we will come on to this a bit more later on, because I know hypnotherapy can really, really help with that. But to start with, tell us, what is cognitive hypnotherapy?
So cognitive hypnotherapy, it's quite similar in some senses to perhaps other things that people would have heard about, rapid therapy or solution-focused therapy. But the idea with cognitive hypnotherapy is we don't just stick to hypnosis. We don't just stick to the therapist saying a script to people. We use all of the best from all different modalities, all different types of therapies. We might use EFT, some people know it as tapping, emotional freedom technique, EMI, eye movement integration, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, pure post-hypnotic suggestion, psychotherapy. We take whatever is best, because there's no one perfect therapy out there. Everything is depends on you, the client, what's best for you. So it uses all of the latest discoveries in neuroscience, and it's a bespoke session for you. Every session is different. Oftentimes people are talking to me throughout the hypnosis. Usually they are, in fact, because cognitive hypnotherapy, it holds that our subconscious is never doing anything to harm us. There's always a positive intention to what it's doing. It's just the message has gotten a little bit mixed up along the way. Often anxiety, it's a protection mechanism that's coming, or lack of confidence is a protect. So our subconscious is trying to help us, but it's just doing it in the wrong way. And through the different techniques, we just allow that to release, keep the positive intention. You can keep protection, but in a good, healthy, adult, mature way, and release all of the negative side effects from it. As an example, I had one guy, this was years ago, he came to see me, and he said, I don't understand why I'm not rich. I mean, that was actually his brief to me, which isn't the typical brief that I have from people, but that was his. And but he said, I'm really smart, I'm ambitious, but he wanted to be a sports agent, and apparently you have to do an exam to be a sports agent, and he kept failing it. What we did in hypnotherapy and in the timeline therapy, we went back and we found out when he grew up in a fairly rough area. He was quite clever, but he kept getting beaten up because he was clever. You weren't getting any brownie points for being a smart kid where he lived. So he just dampened down his intelligence to fit in, to protect himself. So that's but now when he was in his 30s, away from that rough area, married with a child, that was a behavior that wasn't useful anymore. It was useful at that time. It was very good and very useful, and the protection was needed, but it's just as a carryover and not needed anymore. So we just made him aware of that, made him use for that. He passed his exam, and he's really flourishing now. So, I think of him often just almost simply because it was such a strange brief. I say strange, I've seen absolutely everything, but I don't understand why I'm not rich.
I think it's worth pointing out, because some people don't understand that your conscious mind, your thinking brain, is the weakest part of your brain. Your unconscious mind is it's like your own massive computer chip. And a great analogy that someone once said to me was that if you imagine going into a massive hotel and there's carpet everywhere, if you look at the piece of carpet underneath your foot, that's like your conscious brain. But if you look at all of the carpet in the rest of that hotel, that's like your unconscious mind. And so much of our unconscious mind
is really good.
Yeah, it's been programmed before the age of 6 or 7, hasn't it? So if you were brought up in a family home where perhaps there wasn't much love, or there were arguments, or like in my case, my parents were always having discussions about money. You can have these unconscious beliefs about money being bad because it causes arguments in the family or whatever. And those unconscious thoughts, as you've just explained with the guy who wanted to be a sports agent, can affect you, and you don't even know it's happening. That's the most frustrating part.
That is the most frustrating part. It's also called what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. Once you begin thinking something about yourself at a very young age, you begin to seek out the proof of it.
Yeah.
I have an example that I have permission. It's a family member who this had happened. So he's 17 now, tall, strapping lad. But when he was 4, visiting his grandparents, and his granddad was just a skinny little kid. Granddad was the most lovely person in the world. Loved him. Loved all. He was. I know all of these people. But he was in his 80s, slightly different senses of humor. This child was getting ready for the bath, took off his shirt. You could see his little ribs. And his granddad said, "Oh, look at the cute, fat little tummy." And for 2 years, why does grandpa think I'm fat? Why does grandpa think I'm fat? Am I
Oh,
fat? Am I fat? And of course, as adults, we're seeing that, first of all, he's being ironic. The child is thin, he's saying he's fat, but we're taking into account what I just said. Somebody in their 80s, different generations, different senses of humor, doesn't mean anything bad by it. A child doesn't see any of that.
yeah,
They don't understand the irony. They don't understand that 80-year-olds speak differently. They
yeah.
see somebody I love telling me I'm fat. And once you start thinking something about yourself, you're seeking proof. He was taught, even as a 4-year-old, teachers would, often say, "Oh, what a big boy you are." Grandpa thinks I'm fat. Teacher says I'm big. His mom, at four, children grow out of clothes very quickly. "Oh, you're getting too big for that. Let's get you something new." Do, 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 do. And that's the kind of thing left unchecked might develop into an eating disorder, a weight issue,
Yeah,
a confidence, might develop into nothing. Another kid hearing the same thing doesn't affect them. We don't know why some
yeah.
people fall onto it. So, and that can be something that small. It doesn't have to be sustained abuse or bullying or anything. It can be something
No,
very.
no. And I always say, parents do the best that they can do with the information they've got to hand. I think it
Yes.
was it Einstein who was sent home from school with a letter for his mother, and his mother opened the letter and it basically said, your son is educationally subnormal. There's nothing we can do to help him. And Einstein said,
Mm,
Mum, what's the letter say? Oh, she said, the school have said that you're so bright, that you're too bright for that school. I'm going to teach you at home now. Look what happened to him. He
wow.
was the most incredible person. And I think
That's
such a clever parent, wasn't it? Such a clever
such
parent.
a clever parent. That's just it. And that's exactly, it could have gone completely the opposite
Yeah,
way, couldn't it? Gone
yeah.
completely the opposite way. Yeah.
Completely opposite way. And yeah, we're going slightly off on a tangent. So
Yeah.
hypnotherapy and all of these other lovely therapies that and I'm a bit of a therapy junkie, and of course junkie like you. So I know exactly where you're coming from. But what sort of issues can it help?
Oh, it can help so many things. I've had so many disparate things. With hypnotherapy, people often think of the standard smoking, weight loss, and phobias. Absolutely, yes. But confidence and self-esteem issues and anxiety are the top things that people tend to come to see me for. Anxiety, stress, but it can be from anything, all sleep issues, from insomnia to waking up early to, nightmares. I've had people come to see me when they're trying to drown out their partner's snoring next to them, like sound issues, or they live next to a busy A road and the sound is going. Sexual issues, habits, nail biting. I have a lot of, like, there's hair pulling, that any kind of habits like that. Hypnobirthing, that's the kind of thing, just to help women feel more confident when they have babies. Sometimes some people come and they just say, what am I doing in my life? I'm not living up to my potential. I'm just feeling flat. I'm not doing anything at all. And so they come to see me about that. It can, almost anything that you would think you would go to a therapist for, you can come to a hypnotherapist for. But then obviously a lot of my clients, they saying, well, the issue that I have, it's not a therapy issue, but it's just a thing, a one issue. Over drinking, that I'm seeing so many people for right now. So many people. I would say sort of 80% of my clients at the moment are for just drinking too much.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've never heard
And
of hypnotherapy helping that. That's really interesting because
yeah.
not being particularly a drink. I mean, I can understand if I'm out with a gang of girls and I normally decide to drive, to be honest, because I'd rather not get,
Yeah,
and you can just get pushed into drinking. But if I'm not
yeah,
driving, I do find myself, when I've had one or two, that I can carry on. Whereas I'm not a
yeah,
drinker at
yeah.
all. I'd rather not drink if I have the choice. So that's interesting. I never thought about hypnotherapy helping that. That's really
Yeah,
interesting.
no, absolutely. As opposed to confidence or anxiety, where we go back to a negative memory, often with drinking, the memories we go back to, the root cause is quite a positive root, as it is with smoking a lot of times. When we go back, because we try to cut the emotional connection with it, it's quite a pleasant thing. But what people have done is they've fused the good times they're having with people with the drink. So it's the whole causation thing, just
Yeah.
because it happens to be there at the same time. They've said, well, I must be having a good time because I'm drinking. But no, it's just drink happens to be there while you're having a good time. And ages ago, they made that connection, and they think that drink is the gateway to fun. So we just break that connection, so that some people want to just drink a couple, stop after a couple and that's it, and drink socially. Other people just want to stop entirely. But most people want to stop entirely because they just say there's just no good. There's just no good coming from this. And they
No.
feel that they're all or nothing kind of.
Yeah. And I think you're right. There is absolutely no goodness in drinking at all. If you can not drink, it's
Yeah.
so much better for your health. So many serious illnesses are linked to drink. And yeah, much better if you can't.
Yeah.
And I've noticed the internet is a bit funny, but we'll persevere. And I hope anyone listening can, if there are little breakups, I hope that they don't mind those. Okay, so try and explain to us a little bit about what happens during a session.
Yeah. So in the beginning of the session, we do a history take. So I just find out exactly where the person is and where they'd like to be. We don't do big family histories or anything like that. Just really where you are now, where you would like to be. It's solution focused. We're working towards that goal. Then I explain everything people need to know about hypnosis, just a lot of what we've just described here, but also what they're actually going to feel and expect. People experience trance in one of three ways. You either hear every single word I say, and they open their eyes at the end and say, well, was I hypnotized? It felt like I just had my eyes closed. Number two is the most common. You just feel a bit floaty, a bit daydreamy. And three is people fall asleep completely. And in each of the three cases, the people are hypnotized, even the ones who hear every single word, even those who fall asleep. Their conscious is just choosing to do something else, to stay with me entirely, give over, or check out. And it's all fine. All of the three cases are fine. I explain all of this to them. And then we go into the hypnosis, and they're usually, depending on the technique, they're usually talking to me throughout. But I do have some sessions where it's just pure post-hypnotic suggestion. So purely me talking to them. Bring them out at the end. We have a chat about what they've experienced. They tell me, the connections they've made, the realizations they've made. And then they go off. A lot of people feel almost jubilant after the session, but really introspective as well. They're thinking about things. They might sleep really well that night. They might sleep really rubbish. They might have crazy dreams. Most people don't, but some people do, just for one night while their subconscious is processing things. Most people go back to work right afterwards. It's fine to drive. It's fine to go back to work. That's not an issue at all.
Fantastic.
And then in subsequent sessions, they come back. We have a bit of a chat at the beginning about what they've experienced. We decide on the technique from there, and the same thing.
And for something like, say, giving up smoking, or I remember being hypnotized years ago to give up chocolate, to stop eating chocolate.
Yeah.
Is there a number of sessions, or is it so dependent on the person?
No, it well, smoking is generally just a one-off 2-hour session. That's really what our aim would be. And simple phobias, and by simple I mean it has one trigger, so spiders or heights or sharks. I believe it or not see a lot of people for that. I would hope that would just be one 1-hour session. Sometimes a couple of sessions, but really, one session can really work well. Everything else, yes, it's impossible to say exactly how many sessions anybody would need, but it's short-term therapy. 3, 4, 5 is sort of around the number that people come for. And most people notice some positive change after just the first session.
Yeah.
But it's up to them how many they want to come. Sometimes they come for a couple, they realize they've made enough change, and then they might come back a few months later for a bit of a top up.
Yeah.
But it is short term.
Okay, well, that sounds great. And how do people generally feel after?
Yeah, they feel, usually they feel quite relaxed. I mean, they'll feel quite relaxed, quite good. My idea really is that we don't want them going around thinking, oh, look at me, I'm not smoking. Look at me, I'm not smoking. Or look at me, I'm not feeling anxious. We just want them to get on with their lives. And that's what I infuse into the post-hypnotic suggestion, that you're just getting on with your life. And maybe afterwards, looking back, you'll notice that, oh yeah, 2 days ago, when I normally would have been anxious, I wasn't. We just want you to live your life. So quite normal. People feel quite normal.
Yeah, yeah. And it's that, I mean, I know because I was a social smoker in my 20s. And it was when I decided to give up because I realized it was ridiculous to just, when I was out in the evening, have a cigarette. It was that going into a pub, and it was very much pubs in those days, and you'd put your drink on the table and I'd find myself reaching for something. And it was just habit that the drink went down and I was reaching for the cigarettes. So it was just getting over that little thing for me, that when I was out and I put a drink on the table, I didn't need anything else. I just didn't need to think of.
Exactly that. Yeah. And that's the way smokers say it. They just end up saying, well, it's just strange. It's just not in my mind anymore. I'm just not thinking about it at all. And that's brilliant. I really like working with smokers because it's, the change is binary. Either they're smoking or they're not smoking at the end of it. It doesn't require any assessment on their part as to, do I feel more confident? Do I not? It's great.
No, that's great. That's great. And now we've got a little bit more time. So let's think about your sound baths. Now, I am a huge advocate of sound baths, and there was one here that I used to go to regularly, but it's finished. So I need to find an alternative one now. But I always find afterwards, my personal experience is I have the best night's sleep ever for a night or two.
Exactly.
Occasionally I fall asleep in the sound bath, but not very often because I love to feel the whole vibration going through my body. But so that people listening, if they've never heard of a sound bath, tell us what it is.
Yes. Well, I do a crystal singing bowl sound bath. There's other ones that have gongs or chimes. My particular one is a crystal singing bowl. And the idea is it's a group session. People lie down on yoga mats, kind of in the same sort of a venue that you might have a yoga studio. And I'm sitting down. I have 7 of these beautiful crystal singing bowls. They're quite large. I begin, everybody kind of does it differently, but I begin by doing a guided meditation. So I just relax people, take them to a really happy place with all of the breathing and just relaxing you so that everybody is almost in a trance by the time I start. And then I start to play these bowls. Now, it sounds very strange. It's not just like this. It's just not like that at all. And as you would know, when you start to play them, the sound can be very loud. You feel the vibrations of the crystals. You feel it through your body, as you've said. And these bowls are tuned to a particular frequency. It's 432 hertz. And that frequency, it just goes right into our natural body's frequency of relaxation, of sleep, of healing. And so, they have done studies. They're doing more and more now, but it can really promote reduce blood pressure, reduce anxiety and stress, promote a good night's sleep, and promote a sense of well-being and healing. I've had people come that said coming to sound baths, mine and others, it's the only thing that soothes her chronic pain. Other people have come because it just helps them. Other people come because it's just a lovely experience. So I became aware of them a few years back when a friend of mine had just posted something saying, oh, if anyone has trouble sleeping, check out things at 432 hertz. And I don't have any sleeping issues, but like everyone, occasionally I have a bad night's sleep. And one night I was tossing and turning and I remembered this. So I found a YouTube video of somebody doing a sound bath with the crystal bowls. I was asleep in 5 minutes. And so from then on, I started doing research and thinking, what is this? What is this amazing thing? And I got into it from there.
And it is amazing. So anyone who hasn't tried one, you need to go to one of Natalie's. And if you're in the Surrey area, sort of Guildford, Leatherhead, anywhere around that area, Kingston upon Thames,
Upshot and Ashton,
it's well worth going to. And to me, it's almost like having a bit of a clean out of my chakras, because you can feel the vibration going through your body. And I think it's lovely to do a meditation first. Yeah.
Yeah, and each of the bowls is tuned to a different chakra as well. So it has all of that to it. But yeah, no, I do a meditation first because I just want to get people just relaxed and in a lovely state of mind.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, Natalie, I think you were going to offer a call for people if they wanted to see if they could work with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. If anybody just gives me a call, I can explain even more about it. And please don't think that your issue is too strange or too weird or not accessible with hypnotherapy, because I've 17 years I've been doing it. I've seen absolutely everything. There's nothing that surprises me. So just give a call and I can just walk you through the process and you can decide from there.
Brilliant. So I will post up all of your contact details, and then people could contact you through social media or your website and arrange to book a call with you and have a chat and see whether you can help them. And as we say, there's not really much that Natalie can't help with. So if you've got some strange phobia or just some sort of anxiety about something, it's well worth having a chat to see if there's something that can help you. Natalie, thank you so much for having a chat with us today. Really lovely.
Thank you so much, Jill. Oh, that's great. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to this week's show. Check out all the links to the resources mentioned in today's episode and all my freebies in the show notes. See you next time.